been a big year in politics and a very hard year for President Obama, who's ending 2013 with the worst approval ratings of his presidency. However, people still seem to have tremendous admiration for the president. According to a new Gallup poll, Americans admire him more than any other man in the world. CNN political commentators Maria Cardona, Ben Ferguson join me now. All right, guys, so there's a difference between admiration and approval. Maria?
Yeah, I think that's true, Kara, but I also think it points to one of the reasons why this president will still have some political leverage that he can use going into 2014, which I think he will, to try to get some of the bigger things done that he has wanted to throughout his presidency. And frankly, these are things that majorities of the American people approve of. For example, immigration reform, climate change, raising the minimum wage. These are all things that majorities of Americans approve of, and I think that this president can use that kind of admiration, which is a long-term thing, as opposed to approval rating, which focuses on what just happened. We're going to see people getting their Obamacare health care coverage working and being covered, and I think that that will point to a much more productive 2014, but it will also depend on whether Republicans can actually now focus on governing as opposed to just saying no.
Ben, I know deep down in that conservative heart of yours, you admire President Barack Obama.
You know, it's interesting because when he was elected president that night when it happened, and my guy lost, there was a certain aspect of history making and admiration just for being the first African-American president and how far we've come in this country. And I think that's where a lot of the admiration comes from. I mean, there's history there that's not made when George Bush got elected, for example. I mean, there was you could feel it everywhere. You could see it in the stories, and you felt like you were watching not just a president get elected, but you're watching history being made and what makes America great, that we've overcome so much. And so I admire him for that point. But I don't think that's going to correlate into a higher approval rating, which we're seeing right now, or him being able to get a lot of things done because people admire him. I admire what he's accomplished. I admire what it means for this country, but his plans, his ideas, health care, I don't think it's going to help him out anymore. He's had 5 years to ride on admiration, and I think he's about used it all up.
All right, let's have some fun, shall we? How about for both of you, Maria, I'll start with you, your big political story for 2013. What will you never forget?
I actually think the biggest political story, and frankly, I think something that a lot of Americans won't forget, is the third largest or longest government shutdown that was provoked by conservative Republicans over something that frankly was aimed at giving 50 million Americans who didn't have health insurance health security so that they wouldn't have to worry about going broke if they got sick, especially when the rollout of Obamacare was absolutely disastrous, but it is now focused on giving those 50 million Americans coverage and others, frankly, better coverage. And so I think that Democrats should actually talk about this a lot more because it cost the economy $24 billion and it focused on something that, frankly, right now is still a huge problem for Republicans, which is this tension and this civil war, if you will, between conservative Republicans and what they want to do and establishment Republicans who know that that was a big disaster for the party.
All right, so Ben, well, you're tense, as Maria says. You can either choose to combat government shutdown, or you can tell me what you're never going to forget in 2013.
Did we have a government shutdown last year? I mean, I forgot about this already. I remember there being some story that was read at night, but I didn't even remember this government shutdown hardly. I think the big
deal. That's what I'm here to do, remind you, Ben.
And I appreciate you for that. I think the biggest story of the year is going to be, no doubt, if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. If you like your plan, you can keep your plan. It was the biggest lie of the year. The president knew it was a lie when he told the American people that. That's why his approval rating is where it is. I mean, part of it's the website not working, but at the end of the day, it's a trust issue. And so many Americans are looking at this president going, you knew I probably couldn't keep my plan. You knew that I may lose my doctor. You told me that it was going to be okay. I trusted you. And so that's the big issue for me this last year, is the trust issue of the president. People like him, but can they trust him? And a lot of people now, with his approval rating where it is, say, I don't trust you, Mr. President.
Well, here's to trust, confidence, forgiveness, and a fabulous 2014 between Dems and Republicans.
Exactly.
All
There
right,
you go.
guys. Great
Happy
to
New
see you.
Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy
Thank
New
you.
Year.
Well, still to come.